guys, it's Parsifal. I also go by Will, and I am back with another story time rant sort of thing. I've mentioned before that I'm not really good at story times, mostly because I don't remember things, but I was just reminded of this situation that happened a couple of years ago now, and it enraged me so much once again that I figured that I would share this story about my coworkers. Well, not my current coworkers, but my old coworkers. And it is about the presence of chairs in a retail environment. And I know that's a quote-unquote controversial topic. I don't really think it's that controversial. People should have chairs, in my opinion. But it gets interesting. So, I chose this footage because this was the only long footage I have. The only other footage I have right now on my computer for the Speedpaint is a headshot, and I think that would be too slow of a Speedpaint for this story because I don't know how long it's going to go. So this was an old commission from 2018 for Waltz, who belongs to Silver Firefly, aka Ash. I've mentioned them before. And it is completely unrelated to the story I'm going to tell. So yeah, it's a nice piece, and I'm still really happy with it, and I have the footage recorded, and it's long enough that it'll work and not be boring. So yeah, we're gonna start by talking about the background to the story. If you guys don't want to hear the story, just want to hear the speed paint, or just want to watch the speed paint, feel free to mute me. I don't care. I'm going to be frustrated and angry though. Not at you guys, about the story. So, I figured I would give you guys a warning. So, context for this story. I used to work private retail. I currently work corporate retail. I am a person who does not mind working retail. I've done it for 13 years. I say this multiple times in videos, but any video could be someone's first video. So, I'd like to give context. And I worked for this small store, and I was the manager for a little while, not a long time, but I was the manager there for about a month before I moved stores. And it was a small store in terms of it was a small business store, but it was also a small store physically. It was only really the size of maybe and I'd say the front is maybe a 15 by 15 foot, not 15 by 15, a 20 by 20 foot space. It's like 4 bedrooms stuck together. It's not a big store. And if you stand in the middle, you can see basically everything. And that is important for context later because it's a small store. And as I said when I started, this is about chairs, and there's some discourse amongst the presence, I guess, of chairs in retail. I live in America, and just in case I have any watchers or listeners who are not from America, we are not allowed to sit down if we are doing retail work. People do not provide chairs. It does not matter what you are doing. You are expected to stand and be on your feet if you're doing retail work and store clerk work. It doesn't matter if you are on the cash register. It doesn't matter if you are in the back. You don't get a chair. Unless you are on your break, you don't get to sit down. This shocked me when I went to Germany because my sister is in Germany, and my sister took me to a grocery store, and the clerks were all sitting down. They have chairs, and I was like, why don't we get chairs? That's amazing. And apparently it's just a standard there. And you know what? I am absolutely for people getting chairs. Not even just for, accommodations and disabilities, but people should be able to sit down if they're, at a cash register, or if they're not constantly moving around. They should be able to sit down. It is hard on your feet, it is hard on your legs, it is hard on your back, and, if it's not necessary for someone to stand, they shouldn't have to stand. I don't care what anyone says. If you are ringing someone up, it is not necessary to stand. So that's where I stand on that point. However, I was not only the manager at the store, but at the time I was the youngest person working at this store when I was working there. And that was apparently a bit of a problem. And when I say youngest, I don't mean like I was like a teenager. I meant everyone else was like in their, at the very minimum, late 40s and possibly into their 70s and 80s. And I'll admit, I don't know everyone's age there, but I was the manager and my fellow coworkers treated me like trash. They would leave when I had to close the store. When they were expected to stay and help close the store, they would leave me on my own and say, well, we can't stay because we have kids to pick up and we have things that we need to do for our adult life. And, like, I had to close the store all by myself, and that was extremely obnoxious because that is part of their job and they are just skipping it because they don't want to do it, and because they're older than me and they have kids, apparently their life is more important than mine. Like, this is part of your job and part of what you were getting paid for. Do it. Don't leave me on my own. And when I tried to, tell them, hey, you can't do that, they would laugh at me. And it was super frustrating because I was their manager and they had no respect for me. And I don't know what happened after I left because I was so frustrated with how they treated me and how things worked that I didn't care if I left them stuck up a creek without a paddle because they treated me like crap. And like, they would use their age as an excuse. Like, they're older, so they get to leave earlier even though they weren't allowed to, and I couldn't do anything about it because, like, what am I going to do? Fire them? Like, I couldn't fire them. I didn't have the authority to do that because I wasn't, like, that kind of manager. I was the one managing the store, not the one managing the employees. I didn't have any hiring or firing power. And I don't know if that's a normal thing in small business retail, but I've been told that that's a normal thing in small business retail. The only one who has the authority to hire and fire someone is going to be the owner, not the manager. And that sucks. It really does. There was nothing I could do about it, and they knew that, so they just kept treating me like crap, and I was the only one trying to keep the store in working condition. And it got to a point where they just weren't working. I was doing most of the work on my own, and again, that sucked, because what they would do is, especially this older gentleman, and he's the one I'm talking about and I'm angry about. This older gentleman, I don't actually remember his name, so let's call him Mr. Anderson. I don't actually remember his name because I am, like, I didn't bother to remember what his name was after he treated me like absolute crap. And I just kind of forgot because I didn't want to remember that time. And Mr. Anderson would get tired of standing on the sales floor, and I understand that. He was an old man. He had, like, very pale gray hair, very frail looking, very skinny. He was, I would say, at least in his mid-60s to early 70s. So he was an older man. And I understand. Being on your feet 24/7, that's rough. I get it. So again, I understand the need for chairs. I will gladly let people use chairs if I have the ability to, and I had the ability to. So yeah, you can use a chair if you need it during break times. During not like break times isn't like on your break, but like when there's like not much to do, you can use a chair. I'm not going to yell at you about chairs. Go get a chair if your feet are hurting and you need to lie down because sit down because you're old. I get it. The problem is, he would, instead of using the metal folding chair that we had and was available to sit in, he would go to the back, take the office chair, which was a padded black rolling chair, you know, your classic office chair that like swivels around, and he would take that, bring it to the front, put it outside of the cash wrap area, and sit there in the chair and not work. And this is when customers would come in, he would not greet them, he would sit in the chair and lean on the counter and just stare at them as they would go about the store. And this is why I mentioned how big the store was, because it wasn't, you weren't technically, I would say technically you're supposed to get out of the chair if a customer comes in, but like, again, I get you're old, I understand. However, it is entirely possible to engage with the customer while you are sitting in the chair in this store. It is a small store. You can see the customer, they can see you, and you're just sitting there and leaning on the counter. You're not even saying hello, not even going, hey, can I help you? Let us know if we can find anything. I can recommend stuff for you. Like, you're not even engaging with the customer. So at this point, he's just sitting there so he doesn't have to work. Not because he's old, he's just using it as an excuse. And listen, I don't care if, like, you're using a chair, but I start to care once it starts affecting your ability to work. He was entirely capable of sitting in the chair and doing work from the chair, and so I was okay with it until he started not doing his work. And so I told him, can you please put the office chair back in the back of the store? And he would laugh at me. He would not listen to me. He would just ignore me and not do anything that I said. And at points, I would just have to take the office chair myself and drag it back to the back of the store. And then he would go to the back and bring it back out. Like, Sir, you are able to work from the chair. At least work from the chair. Or at least, if you're going to sit and do nothing, use the fold-out chair. Don't just be an entitled asshole. Use your age as an excuse for, oh, I need to sit down because I'm old, ha ha ha, and drag the office chair out from the back, which is, at this point, going out of your way to be a dick. And to go out of your way to get the comfiest chair in the store and sit your butt down and not do anything. You are not being paid to sit around and do nothing. And you are also not being paid to disrespect me. I am your manager. Listen to me when I please ask you to please put the chair back in the back of the store. You're not even helping any customers. Like, at that point, you lose your chair privileges, sir. Listen. I want everyone to be able to sit down if they are capable during retail. But you don't get to be an ass about it, and you don't get to use your age as an excuse for why you should get the chair. And you just, it fills me with so much rage, and there was so much disrespect. And again, he wouldn't even stay to help close the store afterwards because he had things to do. I'm sorry, you have things to do? Well, you know, maybe the store would be closed if you actually did your job and got out of the chair to help close the store a half hour early while we were still open. Maybe you wouldn't have to stay a half hour later if you actually did your freaking job. And, like, if I came into a store and I knew it was a small store and the employee there didn't even say hello to me, just sat on a chair and leaned on the counter and didn't do anything, didn't say hello to me, didn't ask me if I needed any help. Like, listen, I know it's so annoying for retail people to be all up in your face and be like, hey, can I help you? Can I help you find anything? What are you looking for today? Like, I get it. I am a customer for stuff too. I try and be as, like, like, friendly and, allowing as possible as both a customer and as a retail worker. But if I were a customer and the employee just did not even acknowledge my presence, just watched me as I went around shopping and didn't even help me, I would be so fucking insulted. Like, what person raised you like that? I can't believe people, like, think that that's okay. Like, I mean, I can believe people think that that's okay. Like, as I said, he was, like, an older senior citizen and was being super freaking entitled. But, like, do you not consider how it looks to the outside customer? Like, I was trying to make sure that we wouldn't lose any more sales. Like, again, this is why I'm like, wow, I'm so surprised that... I'm not surprised. I'm like, I don't even care if when I leave, if they're, like, out of luck. Like, I was the only one when I left who knew anything about anything or where anything was, because none of them ever bothered to learn anything, and none of them wanted to work. And you know what? Like, at that point, what am I gonna do about it? Like, I can't force them to work. I mean, if, like, I don't have the ability to fire them, and, you know, like, what am I gonna do? Like, they're just not gonna listen to me because I'm a young adult, and they're older adults, and clearly they know more than me, and, yeah, so I had to do everything on my own for a month until I left, because, well, partially because I was moving, but also partially because, like, I'm not gonna put up with that BS. Like, you can't just sit around and not do anything when you're being paid. And the worst part was that I was told by the manager before me, when I was still an employee before I got promoted, he was getting paid $2 more than me to do nothing. The gentleman who was sitting around, Mr. Anderson, was being paid $2 more than I was. And I was the one doing the work. At that point, I spoke up about my salary and went, hey, why are you paying them more than me? I've been here for 2 extra years. And then I got my raise. But, like, what the heck? But yeah, that's the end of my story. I will send you guys the outro. And, let people have chairs, but not if they're assholes about it. See ya. Well, that's the end of this video. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section, or contact me on any of my social media, which is linked in the description below. I also have my Patreon there if you guys want to throw a monthly donation at me. Thanks so much for your support. I'll see you next time. Bye!